This is Lisa from Mobile Tech Review, and today we're going to look at a very interesting new product. This is the NVIDIA Shield. Is this a product that's ahead of its time, or is it something that's just ready for prime time now? Well, you know, a little bit of each. So what is it? This is an Android device. First and foremost, you can see it has a game controller built in. It has a 5-inch high-resolution display. Close it up and it's got a look that only an Alienware owner could love, but it's very rugged. It really is the size of a controller, as you can see in my hands. So the ergonomics for gaming are great, and that's what this product is primarily for. It's for gaming. It is an Android device that you can use with a Tegra 4 CPU. Very important there. The first Tegra 4 device that we're seeing on anything right here. But really, gaming. Not just gaming with Android games, Tegra's own games too. You know, those are a lot more horsepower there, a lot more interesting. But also, this guy can handle PC streaming, your Steam library, some pretty neat PC games. We're going to talk about that too. So here it is, the NVIDIA Shield. It's available now, $299. They did a price drop just before it was released, so it's not quite as expensive. What is it? It's not just a game controller, is it? But obviously, it is also a game controller. As you can see here, big, rugged game controller. Really is pretty rugged feeling. You can mash on this thing and it's going to survive it. The right size for adult hands, nice there. A lot better than the Nintendo DS, for example. You've got your analog sticks, you've got your D-pad right here. Some Android buttons. This is your power button right in the center right there. Glows, looks pretty cool. Home button, play button. The usual cluster of these control buttons. These are stereo speakers that are very loud, pretty darn good for a mobile device, if you can still call this your average mobile device. And on the back, we've got our shoulder buttons, L1, L2, R1, R2 right there, and our control central over here. This is mini HDMI, not micro. I wish they used micro like most phones and even tablets do these days, but, well, at least it's there. There's your microSD card slot. It is compatible with microSD XC cards, however, there's no exFAT driver, which is usually what you see a higher capacity SDXC card formatted in, so you have to use a PC to format your card NTFS. Here we have our micro USB port for data transfer, for charging, uses a standard 2.1 amp charger like many tablets today. Also supports USB host, we'll talk about that a bit later. Your 3.5mm combo audio jack, so you can use it when you're gaming, or you can also use it for VoIP applications, but no camera on this guy. No camera here, no camera inside, so you're not going to be doing video chat on Skype. Kind of a bummer. I wish they had put a front-facing camera on it. Lastly, vents. This little man actually has a fan. That's pretty unusual for something that's running on a mobile CPU, but that's because they have crammed an incredibly powerful CPU that's going to be doing some very demanding tasks, gaming, into a pretty small shell right here. Tegra 4 inside, 1.9 gigahertz, first Tegra 4 device that we've seen. Very, very powerful CPU, benchmarks like crazy, and we'll talk about that later as well. This weighs 1.28 pounds. This is not a light product. This makes an Xbox PC wired controller feel like nothing, like a feather. It's heavy. It's heavier than the PS Vita. That is something to consider because obviously it's a controller. You're going to be using it like this, and you're going to have it, of course, open. So you're not going to rest it on a table, probably. Do your hands get tired? I used it for an hour last night, and I did have one heck of a hand cramp in one hand, so that's something to keep in mind. Why is it so heavy? Because there's a really large battery in here, 28.8 watt per hour, that's 7350 milliamps, so that you can actually game for a long period of time on this. Now, NVIDIA claims that you can go for 4 to 5 hours with Tegra Zone games. Those are the highly demanding and optimized for Tegra CPU games that look more visually lush than other games. If you're playing other Android games, you can get up to 10 hours, they say. Up to 15 hours of video playback for locally stored content, and up to 40 hours of music playback time. So it's not one of those things like your phone, you play a really demanding game on it, and 2 hours later, well, there goes your battery. It's going to last you a while. That's why it weighs so much. Still, it's kind of heavy. Here we have it next to the Xbox wired controller for PC, so you can see what the size is like there. It's every bit as big, certainly. So ergonomically speaking, you're going to have a good experience there. And the buttons are just as large on the Shield, so also very good. You're not dealing with anything that's been small down, like say the Sony Xperia Play phones were, so that the device could be very mobile and used as a phone. This guy is not a phone. No phone, sorry, no, does not make phone calls. You could do VoIP, you could use Skype for voice calls, but it does not have a cellular radio. Now we have it next to the PS Vita, which is no small device. It's got a pretty big screen on there, but you can see the size of the controls on the Vita. The little buttons are actually smaller on the Vita. I would say, ergonomically speaking, that I would think most people might prefer the Shield, honestly, for the bigger controls, the bigger joysticks versus the Vita. But the Vita is a lot lighter. This is something I can play for 2 hours and not say, oh my God, my hands are killing me. This goes for that durable, Alienware. People are going to love it kind of look, more than being sleek and streamlined. It is not bad looking, it is not cheap looking, but it is not sleek and shiny, shall we say. Not being shiny is good because you handle a controller a lot. It doesn't get all nasty looking. This is matte plastic here. Really, really strong. I mean, you could probably conk this into a wall and put a hole in the wall, to be honest. 5-inch display here. NVIDIA likes to make a big deal. I would call it a retinal quality display. Now, that really is just marketing. It means nothing, even when Apple does it with their iOS products. But what it is a 5-inch OLED screen that's very bright and very colorful. It doesn't have an ambient light sensor, so you set brightness manually, and the resolution is 1280 by 720. So those of you with a Galaxy S4 smartphone and HTC One are going to say, I have a whole lot more resolution and about the same panel size. And in truth, you do. Some of the reason why they probably went with a lower resolution display is not just to keep the price down because of the panel cost, but also because this is going to be doing some very aggressive gaming and pushing even more pixels around. Well, that's even more demanding. The CPU and GPUs benchmark really well. I think they could handle full HD gaming really no problem. But once you start involving that whole PC streaming thing, that gets to be a bit more complicated. Also for the PC, who acts as a host for those games. And we'll get into that too. So when you close it up, there it is, one sturdy little clamshell. They actually sell a case for this, but I wouldn't even feel the need for it because it's pretty darn sturdy. And that's what it looks like from the side there. And the bottom just has your usual FCC information. A little bit of gloss over here where you're not going to be touching it too much. The battery is not removable. You have to take it apart if you need to replace the battery. Pretty much a sealed unit like most of these devices are. The screen can tilt back really far, so that's actually nice when you're gaming because you might want to hold it like this and have the screen facing right at you. So that's a very good ergonomic thing right there. It's pretty stiff too, so I can do this and it's not going to fall down on me. Well done there, and it's also good that the speakers are facing at you. Wow, wish more manufacturers would do that. So if we take a look here, besides our gaming controllers, we have our NVIDIA button, which basically is the power button, and it will throw you into Tegra Zone 2. If you press and hold it, you can get it to shut off. We have the back button, we have the Android home button right here, we have the play button, which is sometimes starts up games, sometimes doesn't, and we have this button which brings up on-screen volume controls. Now you can set it to use the top shoulder buttons to control volume, but first you have to hit this and then use the shoulder buttons. So I guess you don't accidentally change your volume when you're gaming. So now that we've talked about all of the various gaming aspects of this, when we get down to it, what is this right here? Does that look familiar to you? That's because it is. This is just your basic Android device. Now at 5 inches, we won't call this a tablet anymore since smartphones are that size too, but whether you call it a smartphone or a tablet, this is Android 4.1.2 Jelly Bean here, and a very vanilla implementation. There's no customization, there's no UI overlay on this. It has 16 gigs of internal storage, 2 gigs of DDR3 RAM, and as I mentioned, it's running on the new Tegra 4 CPU, clocked at 1.9 gigahertz, killer graphics inside, and it runs on ARM A15 core architecture. So what does that mean in terms of benchmarks? Total insanity. It's double the speed of anything that we've benchmarked before. Now, in terms of benchmarks, on Quadrant, it scored 18,854. Your average pretty good phone or tablet scores around 5,000. The latest tablets have been scoring, and smartphones, in the 7,000. So this has 18,884 in Quadrant. On Tutu, 41,288. I kid you not. So that's also double the fastest smartphone and tablets on the market. Geekbench 2, we're doubling again, 4,342. For 3D Mark, the Ice Storm test, it scored 105 frames per second for the demo mode. Oh, wow, that's really impressive. And for its numerical score, 19,342. So is this thing fast? My God, yes, it's fast. It's faster than anything you could possibly throw at it. If this was put into a smartphone or an Android tablet, there wouldn't be anything that could actually make use of that much processing power right now. Of course, developers will come up with interesting things. But in the case of this guy right here, because it's doing the very challenging, demanding gaming, including the PC streaming, well, it's actually a very good use for that CPU, and it makes sense to have it in here. Though I'm sure we'll see plenty of Android tablets coming up in the next year that are going to have Tegra 4 inside. Now, obviously, since I've been touching things, this is a touchscreen just like any Android device. And if you're playing games that make use of the touchscreen and don't support the controller, you can use the touchscreen. It's going to be a little bit weird. You're going to have to kind of like reach over the controller with your hands to play things. So ergonomically, it's not exactly as delightful to do that kind of thing with it, but you can. It has a 6-axis gyroscope, an accelerometer built in, so all the accelerometer-based games are going to work with this as well. In terms of your Android stuff, you got all your standard basic vanilla Google applications. That means Gmail, email, the Chrome web browser. I have side-loaded Flash. It does not come with Adobe Flash, but it also comes with the WebKit web browser, the older Android web browser right here. You can see that icon, and that one does work with the Flash plugin, unlike Chrome. So I've tested it, and you can do Flash. And the nice thing about the CPU and GPU being so fast on this is that Flash is much more controllable and fluid than it would normally be on an Android device. So nice going there. We have our gallery application. Google Play Movies, Google Play Books. You can read books on this if you want. I don't think it's the most ergonomic thing in the world, but it is a very nice, sharp screen, so that makes it pleasant. So what does the browser look like? Right there we had a Flash demo video we were testing out to make sure that Flash actually worked, and it did. And we'll load our website. And how do we do that? We're going to use on-screen here. No, nothing to do with the controller. This has dual-band Wi-Fi with MIMO. They recommend you have a dual-band 802.11 router if you want to do any kind of PC streaming gaming. And it's fast. Nothing is going to be faster than this guy right now. So very fast, very fluid. It can certainly play HTML5 video well. And we'll check out our Nexus 7 review so you can see some streaming video. This is the second generation Nexus 7. See how loud that is? It's about 2/3 volume. It's loud. New name for it, so that's the best we can do in trying to describe this. But it has a really nice display, the highest res. Obviously, that's working fine. So we have that. We have all of our standard Android stuff. You can do your Gmail on here. You can put whatever you're used to putting on your Android tablet or smartphone on this. But the real important thing here is the gaming, isn't it? So we're going to take a look at that right now. We're going to go into the Tegra Zone application, which you can also use the button for. And I've installed a bunch of games on here, Tegra Zone games, so you can see I have Grand Theft Auto. It comes with Sonic 4 Episode 2, and it also comes with Expendables right here, and the other ones I have downloaded. Shadowgun THD, we're going to check out Riptide 2, and for those of you who want to know, you can go to the Shield store, which is basically the Tegra Zone store. You can check out all the Tegra Zone games on there, so it's a pretty nice selection. And then the PC games, which is still in beta, and in fact is not really working well for us, is the streaming, and we'll talk about that later on. So let's go back to our actual Android optimized games. So now we're in our Sonic game. So our volume level's at about 1/3. And here we go, and this one makes use of the D-pad, so controls work just fine. Really nice screen, nice colors. It's just really enjoyable to look at. So that certainly plays well. Now let's take a look at a more modern title. So now we're playing Grand Theft Auto 3. A game that really is meant for the controller. Whenever I play this, I play it on a tablet using an external controller. With this one you can use the D-pad if you want, or the analog stick. Woohoo! Controls work just fine. You can see the game looks good. We have all the settings turned up high on this. Very nice, very smooth, very playable. And one nice thing about this is it actually looks a little better on a smaller screen than it does on a tablet because the graphics are a little bit dated on Grand Theft Auto 3. So a very enjoyable experience. And now we're going to try it. Riptide Gp2. Just came out. Really gorgeous graphics on this, enhanced for Tegra, so you can see a whole lot of water effects and a lot of detail too. Now, one thing I'm going to say is I really much prefer playing this game with the accelerometer. I still have not gotten the hang of using the controller controls on this game, but you may be an ace at it, unlike me. Look how nice those graphics look. How sharp. So much detail. So this uses the shoulder button to accelerate and to slow down, and the A button for your boost, and both sticks to do a trick in the air, like so. Oh, and I tanked him. You can see those water effects on the screen, and just stunning graphics and really good frame rates on it. There is no auto accelerate when you're using the controller, so you have to use your shoulder buttons at all times. But it certainly looks and plays wonderfully on this. And is obviously the most graphically modern of the games that we've looked at so far. And again, it's optimized for Tegra. So that's Riptide Gp2 on the NVIDIA Shield. So now for PC gaming, we've moved over to our gaming PC rig here. This is a desktop rig. You can see what we've got. We've got a GeForce GTX 660 Ti, a quad-core i5 Ivy Bridge CPU. That's the K-series overclockable or unlocked processor, 8 gigs of RAM. So a pretty capable computer right here. And the minimum requirements for PC streaming are pretty steep. No mobile processors. So if you have a laptop that's pretty powerful, not included. It's only for desktop graphics cards. It has to be the GTX 650 or above. So there are a lot of gaming PCs that are sold pre-built that have the 630 or even the 620 for lower end gaming. Not going to happen. Obviously, this is really geared towards enthusiasts who have a fairly powerful and expensive graphics card built in. Again, they also recommend you have an 802.11 router that's dual band. Right now, we have an 802.11 set up, and it's been just fine streaming on either band. No need to use the 5 gigahertz so far for us, anyway. But you've got to have the GeForce Experience installed right here. That's what you're looking at on this screen, and also Steam. And even if you're playing a game that is not in your Steam library, you can add games to Steam, and you might be able to play it with a controller. Now, the tricky thing here for us has been actually having the controller on our device be recognized. That is, our little friend right over here. We can connect just fine, but so far we haven't gotten the controller to work in any of the approved games, and there's quite a nice list of approved games. So here are some of the games that are approved. Batman, Arkham City, Borderlands 2, Dishonored, Metro, Last Light, Resident Evil 6, Skyrim, BioShock Infinite. You got F1 Race Stars, Dirt 3, Half-Life 2, Left 4 Dead 2. So a nice set of games that are supported. And this works like wireless streaming should have on your PS Vita, because so few PS3 games actually support that, where you can actually play the game on the Vita instead. Basically, everything is being streamed in terms of display and audio to your handheld device, and the controller input is being sent back to your console, or in this case, your PC. And so now on your device, when you want to play a game that's on your PC, it's like PC Games Beta, obviously. And we're going to browse the games. And you can see it's finding the stuff in our Steam library. You've got Steam Big Picture here, and the controller does actually work to navigate through that. On Steam, you have to go into account settings and enable beta options to actually get everything working in Big Picture mode. We've got BioShock, we've got Elder Scrolls, so we're going to choose BioShock. So now we've launched BioShock, and you can see what's happening here is exactly what's happening here, and likewise with gameplay too. So if somebody walked up to your PC and you were actually playing on this sitting on the couch, they'd probably be pretty freaked out. Latency has been pretty good on this so far. Really, the biggest problem we're having is actually getting the controller to continue working inside of games. For example, it should be working over here, but it's not, so we're going to have to use the virtual mouse. Now, you can see at all times the same thing's happening on our PC screen. So in theory, I should be able to move my character around here and look around and do all that, but look at that, not working. NVIDIA is still trying to get us some information on that, but if we pretend I'm controlling it, now I'm using the PC here instead to walk around on the keyboard, I'm controlling it. You can also use a game controller, obviously, with this game. You can see it's actually really keeping up in real time, which is pretty darn impressive technology right there. And this leads to the point of, well, is this maybe a little bit ahead of its time, this product? Yes, it probably is ahead of its time. Right now, things are just not working smoothly. If you go out and you buy a Vita, you can give it to yourself, you can give it to your kid, and then you're going to be gaming in no time. With this, if you want to do the PC streaming part, you may have to do some fiddling. You're going to have a very powerful CPU. And, well, it hasn't been a restful thing. I've spent about 4 hours on this trying to get everything working together, and I know just maybe a little bit about technology. For those of you who follow our channel, you know this. And still no go. Now, you might just have better luck right outside the box, and you might get things working, but yeah. Is it the way of the future? I'm sure it is. For those people who want to game and they have a very powerful PC, but they also want to sit in the living room with their family while they're gaming, just to be a little bit more together with their family. So yes, certainly there is a place for this kind of technology, and I think we're going to see more of this hosted in cloud computing in the future. But it's not quite perfect just yet. In addition to mini HDMI, this also supports Miracast. That's for wireless display streaming with 8-bit PCM audio on your HDMI as well. Bluetooth 3.0 here, and the USB, micro USB port that we have back here, like I said, it has USB host capability. If you get a USB host on-the-go adapter with this, you can actually use keyboards, mice, and even a game controller, which is kind of a goofy idea because you've got really a very good game controller built in. So that does have support here. The SD card slot, this you can put applications on your internal storage, your 16 gigs right here. You have about 12 gigs available. You know how big games are, so that means you might not fit so much. You cannot put them on a card. That's the way Android 4.0 and up is. However, NVIDIA has said they're going to do what Samsung did and write their own little OS hack basically to allow you to put stuff on cards. But for now, you're going to have your games on internal memory. You can put your movies, your photos, your music, all that stuff on a micro SD card. Battery life for this guy has pretty much been what NVIDIA has claimed, which means it's pretty impressive. And though it has a fan, we've hardly heard it kick on. When we do PC streaming, we do, and it doesn't get hot to the touch. You will feel some pretty warm air coming out of that little vent hole right there, but that's about it. So that's the NVIDIA Shield. It's available now. It's $299, not too darn expensive, but is it something that you need? I'm not so sure. Is it something you want? It just might be. At $300, it's not that expensive, so hey, go ahead and splurge if you want it. I'm Lisa from Mobile Tech Review. Be sure to visit our website for the full review, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel.